Hi, my name is Cheryl, and I am a coach and a creator of a 2024 Live Your Dream Planner. And I am so excited to share on Conversations with Pearl.
Hey, everybody, welcome again to another episode of Conversations with Pearl. I'm so excited to have you guys here today. And as usual, we always have a great show of fun conversations, and we're heading into the new year. So, what better way to have on our show today some things that can help you prepare for the 2024 year? And really, anytime during your year, it doesn't ever hurt to start if you haven't started already. And today, our special guest is the owner of Cheryl Ziegler Consulting. And Cheryl helps Kingdom women who feel lost, unfulfilled, and without purpose to live the dream God has placed in their hearts so they can live a purposeful and inspired life. She's also founded Cheryl Ziegler Creations, where she created the 2024 Live Your Dream Planner to help you set goals in partnership with God to fulfill your dreams. She is passionate about helping women achieve their goals by being intentional and consistent and having a plan. In 24, she became a published author of an Amazon bestseller in faith and spirituality, Leap of Faith, which she co-authored with 20 other peers this year. So I am so excited to have as our guest, Miss Cheryl Ziegler. Welcome to the show, Cheryl.
Thank you so much, Pearl, for having me. It's a pleasure.
You are so welcome. So tell us, first of all, where are you coming in from?
So, I currently reside in Northwest Arkansas.
Yay. And I watched some really fun shows that are from that area. So I love having people from all over the world with us, and especially all over the US. And so Cheryl, walk us through a little bit about your story. Help us to see, what was life like growing up for you and what led you to do what you're doing today?
I grew up in Southern California. My mom and dad had transplanted actually from Pennsylvania. They moved across the country, and that's where I grew up. And I really enjoyed being in that area. And generally, I would say that my background, as I started to grow into a vocation, I was just really good with numbers and with math, and so I went into the bookkeeping field, and I worked in corporate America. I'm going to say for probably a good 20 years, but I really felt like I thrived there. I felt like I had a great organization. I'm going to say I did get married when I was 24. I married my first husband. Unfortunately, we did later divorce, and I have since remarried. And in fact, my husband Steve and I have just recently celebrated 20 years of marriage. So we're excited about that. Yes. But yeah, that's where generally I grew up, was in Southern California. And I feel like there was life in California. And then about 6 years ago, my husband and I, Steve, we moved out of California and we moved to Oregon, and we stayed there for a little while. And right before COVID, I really felt that the Lord had pressed upon my heart to leave corporate America and to go into business for myself. So that's when I was like, okay, what should I do? And began my bookkeeping business, totally bookkeeping. So that was a total leap of faith. But I also felt confident that, okay, if I was being led that way, I felt confident that there was a reason I was being led that way. And who knew? It was right before COVID, and I had no idea all that was coming down, but I had left corporate America right before all that happened.
Wow, that's so much of the stories that I hear when I'm coaching the women that I coach. Like we have this path we go on, and like you said with accounting, right? And you go through this path, and like we think we're this great career that we're doing, and we feel like that's our calling. And maybe for some that are listening, that's like you said, your parents showed you, some of that was from the path that they did in their life. And then we one day we just wake up and we're like going, yeah, I don't know that I want to do this anymore, right? And so then we start going, what do I really want to do? And that's what I love helping and coaching women on, is especially in that midlife, like that 45 to like 60 years old, where we start saying, I've raised my kids, I've done this career that I've been working so long, and I want something more. And then here you go, you go off and you kind of walk through that journey, and like you explained, you had a marriage that ended up in divorce, and now way to go, 20 years of marriage. I'm a little close to 37, so it's a lot of work, but it's well worth the work. And then here you are, you're like, I want to do something more than just this accounting. And you've created these, you're in a book chapter, you've written a book, and now you've got this amazing journal that you're putting out for everybody to prepare for next year. So tell us a little bit about, let's talk about the book first, and then I want to talk about the journal. So where did the book come from?
So I have a business coach, and I just wanted to encourage anyone out there who's thinking of getting into business or just trying to discover where their next steps are. I just thought it was so imperative to have a business coach to really bounce ideas off of, get feedback, and really help you stay on the right path because there's so many shiny things out there that and so much distraction. Where I felt like she really helped me to gain clarity of mind, but part of me being one of her clients is that she was going to create a book compilation. So she had people that she knew that she wanted to create this book. It's called Leap of Faith: How how we took a leap of faith and God showed up in the gap. So we all contributed a chapter to that. And I will say that I cannot say I am the best writer, but I will say I'm so glad that I went through that process, and I worked with an editor, and she helped me to understand how to, effectively write a chapter in a book so that the reader would be engaged, they'd understand, like there would be feelings. Since I'm more analytical, I seem to give more information as opposed to the feelings behind it. So she really helped me to process, okay, well, how did you feel when you did that? It's like there was no emotion, and she helped me add that emotion in there.
I love how you remind us it's so important to have a business coach. If I was to say if there was one thing I didn't do at the beginning of starting my business was to get a coach, like to have that coach. And I know we talked before we came on, you've talked to my good friend Julie DeLuca Collins, who's my business coach. And it's so important because like you said, to run ideas, because sometimes we think, oh, this will be so often. And in our head, we have this big idea of it. But when we break it down, we just finished training with her where she talked about, is it a project or a process, right? And what's the best way to attack that and to go after it so that you can achieve it and make it the best thing ever. And having a big, like what you said, having a business coach, you reminded my husband. My husband's a CPA auditor. Everything is very analytical for him. But if I ask him to talk about his feelings, he's like, I'm fine. I'm good. So to have that coach that helps you share your words with feelings as well is so, so important. And I love that you recognize that, and you right away, you said, I need to do this, with a coach. And because we can wait, we can lose time on things that are not going to benefit us. And time is important, especially when we talk about self-care, because if we're not investing the time that in ourselves and we're spending a lot of time doing projects that maybe aren't aligned up to what we want, then we lose that time with ourselves. And also we lose the opportunity to work on something that is really where we should be focused on instead of what we've been working on currently. And I love that you recognize that and had that coach. So tell us a little bit about your chapter you write.
So the chapter I wrote was about taking a leap of faith moving out of California. So when we moved out of California, Steve and I knew that we were there for most of our life. That's where our family, our friends were. And we moved to Oregon. His son and his daughter from a previous marriage had recently moved to Oregon. And we were praying about, okay, where should we move? And we felt like that was the place that we were supposed to move. So we did end up moving to Oregon. And one of the things you discover, even though you feel led to do something, everything does not automatically fall into place. We encountered challenges, and then we questioned, do we move to the right place? And I will say that in that process, we still walked through that, and we navigated. We learned how to stretch those muscles of being an overcomer when everything didn't go the way that you thought it was going to go. And because we grew up in Southern California, we never knew what like snow was. So having to navigate a lot of snow and driving in the snow and what that looks like, and now we feel like we're pros at it because where we live now, it does snow, but not to the extent that it did in Oregon. And now we feel like, oh my gosh, there's hardly any snow on the road and everything closes down here. It's so funny.
And I'm sure, I remember our move from California to Virginia. We went like you said, we were in Southern California, desert, everything, smog, the whole thing, to Northern Virginia where lots of snow, streets shut down, you can't get plowed, and you're like going, what have I done? Right. And that moment. And so tell us a little bit of like, you take that leap of faith, like what was that feeling like? Because, oftentimes, and some of the women that are listening to us, we're afraid to take that first step. Like I know sometimes when I coach women, they have to make some serious changes in their lives. It could be with a marriage, it could be with their job, it could even be with their children. And so they have to like take that first step. And oftentimes as I'm talking with my clients, I realize they're kind of just stuck because this is kind of comfortable. It feels okay.
Yeah.
I can make it work. I may not have everything I want, whether it's from the relationship, the job, but you know what? I'm surviving, right? I'm making do. But really deep inside, we're not happy. It's not the happiness like you were talking about, with we were talking about earlier with God. It's not the happiness that he wants us to have. He wants us to feel fulfilled, right? And that's why I always talk about when I'm working with my clients and coaching and doing our retreats, I talk about what's that glow up for you? Like what is that happiness that just radiates and makes you feel like so warm inside? Like what is that you've kind of like dimmed the light, you've kind of turned it down, you're not letting the candle blow up as much as it should be until you step into that leap of faith, like you said, and say, you know what? It might be scary to take that first step in outside this box that I've been very comfortable with, but I got to take that leap of faith. I've got to do this because if not, at the end of the day, if I'm not here tomorrow, what kind of legacy did I leave behind? Somebody who was too afraid to jump into that leap of faith, somebody who was too afraid to make a change in their job. Was I too afraid to make a change in my marriage? Was I too afraid to ask for help in a situation? And so, and again, Cheryl, we're talking that leap of faith is scary. I mean, fear is truly means false evidence appearing real, but it's so heavy for us sometimes. So tell us about like what were some of the fears that you were facing as you're getting ready to take that leap of faith to Oregon? Because then you went from Oregon to Arkansas, so you had two big leap of faith that happened in a very short period of time. So share with the audience like what were some of the things you were feeling and how did you process it? I know you said you prayed upon it, but what were some of the things that you did to help you step out of that fear?
So one of the things that I feel like I've really, not that I've mastered it, but I've got more comfortable with it, is when you feel that resistance or you feel that tension, to lean into it. There's something good. I feel like there's breakthrough, and I've seen that in my own life experience, and I know that others could testify to that as well, is that if there's a tension and you're just uncomfortable, but there's going to be goodness on the other side of that. And I am a big believer in I don't want to get to the end of my life and then have all these regrets. I mean, we could all look back when we were younger and we made decisions. We're like, okay, I wish I could have had a do-over. Well, I can't go back. I can't make any of those redo any of those decisions. I have to start for where I am now and move forward. And I think I realized, and maybe a lot of other of your listeners realize this too. During COVID, I felt like I was just like shrinking because we were isolated and it was really hard to be around other people and community. But in my heart and my spirit, I felt like I needed to learn how to thrive in any circumstance I was in. And so there's that tension there. Like you have this fear that you don't feel like you're thriving. In fact, everything around you is screaming you're not thriving. You're pulling back, you're shrinking back. But as I learned to push through to that, it was really a game changer for me. And I am the type of person where I really believe that we are given one life. I mean, we all know that we're all given one life. What do we want our lives to count for? Do we want to matter? I know in my heart, I want to have an impact on other people. I want other people not to live. I use my words, and I lived so long as a defeated Christian. And when I say that, the words that were coming out of my mouth were so disempowering, so negative, and I did not give myself credit for hardly anything. So I really want to help people to not live that same way, that your words make a difference, your life matters. And yes, there may be fear, there may be that tension. And one of the things I like to say is get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because soon as you've done something, you've exercised that muscle, and it's like, okay, it was a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe it was even a little bit scary, but you did it. And now it's like auditioning. I could just imagine, like if you're auditioning for a part, that first audition is super scary, but then the second one's a little bit easier. You get comfortable, you understand the process better. And that's the same with so many things in our life. So I just want to encourage people out there. I want you to thrive in your life and not allow fear to hold you back.
And those are that's such great advice because we have to learn, as you said, like learn to lean into it because it's not, and like you said, once you do it once, the next time it's going to be easier, and it's like I used to say, I tell everybody I'm a overcoming people pleaser addict, right? And I had to learn how to stop doing that. So, because it was so important for my self-care. So I took something as simple as a rock. And if you're listening, I'm holding up a rock and this one says gratitude, right? And I made a commitment to myself that 3 times a day I was going to move this rock back and forth 3 times from my left to my right, saying no to something so that I was truly saying yes to what I want to say yes to. And it took a lot because I'm like a rock. Like it wasn't this rock, but this rock symbolizes it. I would be out walking somewhere when I just came up with this idea. I found a rock, I just grabbed it and it went in my pocket. And as I leaned into saying no to things that I really didn't want to say yes to, I found I was showing up more for the things I truly wanted to do, the things I truly wanted to say yes to. But the aha for me, Cheryl, was that I realized that how many doors I was keeping closed for somebody else. Like, for instance,
Yes.
we're going to talk about your planner in a minute, but let's say I, wanted to create like a planner or something and I didn't know the tools to do it. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to help you do that, Cheryl. That sounds great. Let me help you do that. I have no clue how to help you build a planner, right? But because I didn't want to let you down, I'm going to say yes, as opposed to saying, oh my gosh, I know my friend Georgiana. She's amazing. She's great at printing and she's great at ideas. Let me connect with her because she's created so many beautiful things for my retreats, right? So I
Yeah.
realized I was closing the door to so many people. And that's not healthy for our self-care when we keep showing up for things that's not what we really want, as you said, lean into. And then, you know, to do it once, because like you said, once you do it, like, all right, you're going to create another planner, right, Cheryl? So next year for next year's planner, you're like, this worked good for it, but you know what? Next year, I'm going to make it a little bit different here. We now have those tools because we've done it. I actually spoke to somebody earlier today about coming on the podcast, and she was talking about how she tried acting for a little bit. And she's like, I love the part of acting. I don't like the work. So she said, I got out of it. She's like, I was the actress that would show up on time, would know my lines, but to have to study and everything else, like, yeah, not me. So, so she's like, and I'm like, that's so important that we know what is the thing for us and what's not the thing for us. Because if you're going to lean into it, be prepared to lean in and be prepared for whatever comes your way, because there's lessons in everything. Nothing's perfect. And as you said, Cheryl, like everything is
Mhm.
not going to be a perfect pie that's going to come out of the oven, right? But it can certainly look a little brown over here, a little golden over there, and knowing that it was done with love, right? And so I love that you remind us that, just lean in, take that step, that leap of faith, because the next time you lean into it, you're going to come with experience. And if you don't know, so if you're listening to us and you're like, yeah, but I'm not sure how to step into it, that's when you get, as we said earlier, Cheryl got a business coach. I got a business coach. That's where my clients call me and say, Pearl, I need help with my mental fitness. Can you help me? Can you help me say no? Can you help me stop being a risk taker? Can you help me feel like I've got some joy in my life so I can glow up in my life? So I love that you reminded us of that to us as well, Cheryl. So let's talk about your planner. Talk about where did the planner come from and why the planner?
So I have used paper planners. I need to write things down. If I want to have anything done, my goals, I have to have it in written form. I feel like I use my phone, my digital calendar more for appointments, not necessarily my to-dos or my goals, my dreams. So when you like for me, I have specific criteria. I know I want it to be a beautiful paper planner. I know I want it to be quality. And since I am a faith-based person, I like to see some scripture in it. Just how I receive encouragement when I'm looking at it. But I also wanted it to be functional. So I would say probably around this time last year, actually, in November of last year, I just felt like, you know what? There isn't a planner out there. I have wanted to do something like that. And so I had some friends who knew I was considering creating my own planner. And so what she did is she referred me to someone that she knew who helped people to create their own paper product, whether it be a journal or a planner or whatever that particular paper product looked like. And so once I saw there was a clear path forward, I was like, oh, okay. Because I started doing research on the internet, which, like, I think all of us do once we want to go down a certain path. There were so many options. I was like, I didn't even know which way to go, because what if you go down the wrong path and then you have money wasted and time wasted? But since I found this gal, and she seems very reputable, she had been doing it for like 7 years. I'm like, okay, she created her own planners, and then she started teaching people how to create their own paper planners, or, like I said, paper products. So that's when I decided to take that leap of faith. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if I could do this, right? She laid it all out, showed you everything you needed to do, gave you the resources, the tools. Yes, I already had in my mind how I wanted it designed, what I wanted to look like, that it would be a goal planner. But since I am much more analytical, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of decision making that has to be done in designing a planner. I mean, you have to think about the fonts, the colors, the graphic on the front. You know, do you want it hardcover? What kind of a binding do you want on it? How thick do you want your paper? And through that whole process, what I discovered about myself was I did not give myself enough credit for how creative I was. I felt like that gift really came out of me. And now I was like, okay, after that, after walking that path of creating the planner, I'm like, okay, I can do that as well. I am a creative person, which before I didn't even think. I used to say I'm not creative. I do not say those words anymore. I am a creative person, and it has just been such a great experience. The planner came out far better than I even, when you're designing it and putting it in a software program, and then you get your physical planner, your sample planner before they send it off to mass production. You're like, wow. I was just like, I created this. There was something so special about that.
I love that. And for those that are not watching us, you should see her face light up. It's like that, that proud mama. She's so proud of her baby, this beautiful baby. And it sounds amazing. And you're right. There's so many different planners out there. And I'm one too. Like, I will grab my phone. I have to have a piece of paper, writing things down and everything. And I want to tell you a story. While you were listening, I verified my question earlier. So I'm at a business retreat this weekend, you guys, and this is so powerful. The connection. So our mutual friend, Cheryl and I have a mutual friend named Lisa Pulliam, who, by the way, Cheryl, you are beating her on the show, so you have to give her a hard time. I've been trying to get her on here for a long time. But Lisa put you and I together, and she also introduced you to my business coach. And this past weekend, you guys, all our business coach, Julie, was talking about at her CEO retreat was this planner she got and how great this planner was. And the whole weekend, I'm like going, I wonder if that's that planner that I talked to Cheryl about when we were going to have her come on the show. And so while you were talking, I messaged her and I go, hey, was that planner you were talking about from Cheryl? And she's like, OMG, it really is. And you better get it. So if you're listening to us, here's a plug from somebody you don't even know that's going, yes, it's an amazing planner. And if you could just see Cheryl smile, it's so, so powerful to create something that truly is, can change lives for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's so amazing that that's something that you saw a need and you created something. And that's truly, if you're listening to us, that's the joy of that second act of life too. Like if you're stuck in something you're not enjoying, whether it's your job or, even if it's a business. I have somebody who started a business and quit the business and went and started making soaps because that's what she loved more than the business she was in. And so if you're listening and you're like going, I really don't like what I'm doing, but I have joy in creating a planner. I have joy in helping somebody lose weight. I have joy in going and volunteering. Start doing something that brings you joy because we're not promised tomorrow. And those of you that follow my story, I lost my son a year ago, July at, 25 years old, just talked to him 20 minutes before he passed and he was gone. So we're not
Wow.
promised tomorrow. So if tomorrow you're not here and I had to stand up and give a stuff to say about Cheryl, I would talk about this journal she did, about how she took something that was on her heart and wanted to change lives and how she created this journal and this planner and helped me change my life, helped you change your life. And so I challenge you, if you're listening to us, what is it that brings you joy you're not doing? What is it that's not allowing you to glow up in your life to bring that joy into your life? And so I want to challenge you with that. And we're going to talk to Cheryl some more about that. So tell us, what are some of the top 3 things that we can expect to find in the planner? I mean, I know everything's great in a planner, but what were the top 3 things you thought about when creating this planner that was a must that had to be in the planner?
So one of I call it the Live Your Dream Planner. And the reason I named it that is because I know everyone has some dream that's in their heart to fulfill. They may have repressed it or tried to accomplish it, but it didn't come to fruition. But I know that everyone has something that they want to do. So it is called Live Your Dream Planner. And there is a two pages worth of there's some it's called Dream with God. And on one side of the page, there is some prompts to help you think about what does that look like? Like, what does my dream entail? Who will I be serving? What problem am I solving? Or who is this going to affect? What types of relationships is going to grow out of that? And then there's the second side of the page is you could use it as like a mind map. You could draw, create, whatever. Because I know I'm more linear. I like to write, but then I know there's creatives who really love to draw. So that is one area because I feel like once you get those dreams and you start really thinking about what does that look like for 2024, okay, that's just the beginning because we all know, like when even just take the planner, for example, when I went down that road, well, there was a starting point, but then there's things that you're going to encounter, relationships you're going to have come across your path, things that you don't foresee, but it's all part of the journey. So you just have that starting point of pursuing your dream. So that was the starting point. And then the second part is really putting them down on paper. What does that look like? Okay, if you want to do something, what are your next 3 steps? What would be your next 3 steps for you to even walk out, as you said, in faith to have that dream accomplished? Because I know we've heard it said before, a dream without a plan is just a wish. And we don't want to wish that these things happen. We want to actually actively pursue them. So there's definitely a lot of space to write down in a logical sense of like, okay, what am I going to do? What's my week going to look like? And then interesting is I know you talk about self-care, and that is actually a part of my journal, which I thought was so important. Which you would think, why would this be in a goal planning journal? I believe in I call it soul care, spirit, or excuse me, mind, will, and emotions. Right, that's what your soul is made up of. And if your mind is not in the right place, if your will or your determination is not in the right place, and if your emotions aren't in the right place, you're not even good to yourself. And I know I'm speaking to the choir for you and your audience, but I felt that if you wanted to do something, if you wanted to pursue that dream, you needed to be the best version of yourself that you could be before you start trying to help others. Now, I also understand that we are all in different places and you can help someone else even if you're going through a trial or a tribulation, something is not going right in your life. There's always someone that is further back behind that you could give that helping hand to. But generally speaking, if you're really going to be going down the road, you want to be as healthy in your mind, your will, and your emotions as possible. And as you start walking through these things, and I discover this for myself, there's going to be things that are going to come up that you're going to think, well, like the imposter syndrome, battlefield of the mind. Like, are you worthy? Are you good enough? Oh, no one's going to buy my planner. Why am I even doing this? Those types of things. So I really feel that, and that's why I put that in the planner, is to really think about those things. Where are you creating margin for yourself? And you said something so important. I absolutely believe that. On the front of the planner, it says, be the one who says yes. And if you say yes to something, you're automatically saying no to something else because we can't. We physically cannot take on everything. We just can't. So when you know your values and your priorities, you're more willing to say, that is not for me right now, maybe at another time, but not right now because I'm pursuing this and I'm going to say yes to what's in front of me. And I think when we do that and we're willing to be courageous and brave and say the no to other things, and we say the yes to the things that we know that we're called to pursue, because I believe that every woman has a call and a purpose for her life, that you get rid of so much mental clutter. You literally, you don't feel that burden on your shoulders. You feel like your load is light and you can move forward in the plan and the purpose that God has for your life.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get my hands on this planner. It's going to be amazing. I love that you put that like right in the front about the saying yes to yourself and saying no, because we forget that no is a sentence. We forget that yes is a sentence, and as much as yes is, no is a sentence too. And it's okay, like you were saying, it's okay to say no for now and maybe come back if it's a yes later. I think that's a great reminder for us as well. And I love the mind map. I'm like that. I love to do mind drawing and things and make a circle and go, this is where I want to start. Oh, and if I do this, it could lead to this. Like, I just love that you put that all together. I think it's really, really important that we have that. And then also how you break down the joy, like the joy, what brings us that joy, because that's something that I love when I work with my clients. I think I'm crazy because I'm like, okay, you're going to go home today and you're going to do homework. And your homework is tell me 10 things that bring you joy. And why does it bring you joy? And they're like, well, I can tell you now. I'm like, no, 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 because you don't understand. I'm going to make you not only tell me what it is, but I want to know why. And then I want you to keep asking why until you can't ask why any longer. So you get the answers,
That's
right?
that's
And
so good.
it's so powerful because, yeah, our kids bring us joy, sun brings us joy. Those things, waking up every day with another day of life, of course it's going to bring you joy. But why do your kids bring you joy? Like my youngest son, Nate, I mean, he's going to be 24 in January. And I just love that he's an old soul and he
Mm,
looks at things with the historical view of it. Then he looks at it with this time and day and age view. And then he looks at how can I be respectful of somebody else's opinion? And that's hard to learn. Like people have opinions and sometimes they just want, and he's mindful of what their opinion is. And he brings it forward as recognizing, oh, I can see that from that perspective. So I just love that about him. And I love that even though he's I call him an introvert, he doesn't think he is, but even though he's an introvert, he's still very external with a lot of other things that he shares, including he just got engaged Thanksgiving week. So we're going to have a
oh,
daughter-in-law.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So just in the whole thought process that he did that, was just so amazing. And then, I think about like, oftentimes people say, well, the sun, getting up every morning brings me joy. Okay, but what are you doing with that day that, you put your feet in the ground, you open your eyes. What are you doing with that? Like truly, what are you doing? Are you just sitting on the couch watching TV and surfing on your phone all day long? Or are you truly going out to try to make something a difference in the world? And it doesn't mean you have to go out and change the world, but maybe there's something you can volunteer for. Maybe there's a business you've been just kind of putting on a shelf that can impact somebody's life. Like, what are you doing? I did this exercise with a hairstylist, and she's like, I just love cutting hair. I'm like, that's great. My hairdresser loves cutting hair too, but why do you love cutting hair? And she's like, well, they sitting down in the chair, they change their color. I go, okay, I can change my color at home. What about me coming to you makes a difference? And she's like, well, because I listen to them and what their needs are for their hair. I'm like, okay. And so when you listen to them, then what happens? And as we broke it down, she started realizing that, she's like, well, when they leave, they're so transformed. But what about that transformation? And she's like, it makes me feel good inside when they look in the mirror and they see something beautiful in that mirror, even if it's their hair just for a short little bit of time, they feel that glow up inside and it makes me feel good inside. I'm like, see, that's why cutting hair for you brings you joy because I could do it in my home if I want to. Right. And so I just love
Yeah.
breaking that down. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put you on a spot, Cheryl. If you'll play along with me, I would
Okay.
love to know what are the top 3 things that bring you joy and why do they bring you joy?
No, that's a great question. I find it hard to always narrow these things down, but uh, I will say that I am also an introvert, and I really enjoy being. I like to pray. I like to meditate, so I really enjoy that. The other thing I really enjoy is being outside, being out in nature. I love beauty. I love going on hikes. Those are really empowering for me. And then the other thing is, I love spending time with friends, really good friends, and having deep conversations, not just the superficial, like how's the weather, how's the family. I really like, okay, how are you feeling? Like what are some of your struggles? I really want to get to know someone at a deeper level than just the surface.
I love that. Intentional conversations. They're so powerful. I was just talking with somebody this morning. We have a book that I'm putting together. I'm putting my own collaborative book together, Cheryl. It's called Beyond Skin Deep: Stories of Intercultural Adoptions. So we're looking to speak to families that have adopted children of a different nationality than they are, or adoptees that were adopted by a different nationality than they are, to share their stories about their experience, right? And so this morning I got to spend some time with somebody and we had great conversations about that. I was able to share my reflection back. If I was to look back and do things differently than I did with our oldest son who was born of our heart, what would that be? And what would I tell that future adoptive family or adoptee? And that's why we're doing the book. And so it's so powerful when you can have great conversations, like you said, other than the weather and our family's great, but like, what's happening in your world? How can I support you? What do you need help with? It's just so powerful when you can do those. So, okay. So you've played along with that. So the next step that I love to do when I'm coaching my clients, we've talked about the things that bring us joy. What I want to know is what is your not to do list? So we create all these to do lists. I got to go grocery shopping. I got to get the kids at school. I got to get on this podcast at Pearl. All these things we have to do, clean house, whatever that is that we have to do as individuals. But what is this not to do list what should be on that list that's going to keep you from doing the things that bring you joy? So for instance, if you want to sit in a swing set, right, and you have some quiet self-care time, what do you have to stop doing that's going to allow you to do that? And maybe it's creating tiny habits, as my friend Julie coaches on, around when I do this habit, I go sit outside and swing and get in the porch swing, right? So tell us, or it could be thoughts too that we say to ourselves. So Cheryl, what are 3 things that you would have on your not to do list to allow you to keep doing the things that bring you joy?
So one of the things, and I feel like as a business owner, it's like the love-hate relationship with social media. It's like you have to be on it if you want your name to be out there. But I try to get off of that as soon as possible. I try not to. I mean, I purpose not to stay on there any longer than I need to. And then the other thing is how many things I tend to try to stay away from things that will like I try to do things quicker instead of like, you could take if it takes you 30 minutes, or if you could take 30 minutes, let's say just to clean your bathroom, but you can do it in 15. I'd rather do it in 15 and then go do something else. So trying to condense the things that I don't like to do so I do have time to do the things I like to do.
That is great advice. Condense the things I don't like to do so I have more time to do the things that I love to do. That is so, so true. And for some people, that's hiring somebody to clean your house, right? So, but for me, that's not the case, right? So I love that you remind us of that. So thank you so much for playing along with me on that. So Cheryl, you also do some coaching. So tell everybody, like, what can your client expect when they come to get and work with you? What's some of the things they can expect when they come into your world?
So I generally work with Christian women who know that God has placed something on their heart, or they're looking for their plan, their purpose. Maybe they know what that is, or they're in that discovery mode. They're not sure exactly what that looks like. So I walk them through, what does that look like, first of all, for you? Who do you feel that you're being called to serve, or what are you being called to serve? Because it's not always a who, but eventually it trickles down to who, because even if it's in a government or school or whatever, an organization, it all comes down to people, right? So what does that look like? So I work with them on that, and one of the things that I really try to empower them with the Word of God. So who does the Lord say you are? I think so many times as Christians that we feel like we have to do this alone, or we are doing this alone, but if the Lord is with us, then he says he's our strength. The joy of the Lord is our strength, that he never leaves us or forsakes us. So I talk about our identity. I talk about intimacy with the Lord, and what does that look like? Because when you're doing something for the kingdom, that you want to make sure that you're having those conversations with God. And as a Christian, we believe that we do hear from the Lord, whether through his word, it could be through someone else who speaks a word that confirms something already in our heart. And then really all those things, when there's a good foundation laid for those, that will lead into your assignment. So it's your identity, your intimacy with the Lord, and then that trickles down into your assignment. So I really help people to do that. And then if someone already knows what they're doing, so on a deeper level, I help even women who, okay, I know what I want to do, but they're called, like, I feel like I'm called to not impact a lot of people, but I believe the assignment for me is depth. versus some, and then the people I'm called to serve will have the width. So they'll be impacting more people. But just because of my life experience, who I am, I just believe that that's where I am being called to serve the best. And yeah, so I love, love, love when I get to work with women, empower them, and then they feel like they have the tools that they can use to step into their calling.
I think that's amazing because, and sometimes we just need that help. Sometimes it's just a matter of somebody, we feel like we have the answers, and typically we know the answers, but we just need that person to help guide us through that. And I love that you do it through your faith. And I always tell everybody about, I believe that God's brought us here. We come here when he's created us, we have these talents that he's giving us, and like your talents with the planner and the talents of your coaching that you offer. And that when we don't do something with that for ourselves, we cheat ourselves. So like if you didn't use your creativity to create this beautiful planner we've been talking about, it wouldn't have impacted your life to make changes in your life. And then you took the things that you knew helped you and you put them into the planner. So now what is Cheryl doing? Now she's paying it forward, which is what we have to make sure that we're doing, is to learn to pay these things forward with these talents that we have, because it's so imperative that we do. We have a story to leave others. I have the privilege of coaching for a nonprofit, and I tell the women every time I see them every month, if you had to write in a journal once a week about your week and about how where you're at today has helped you, and it's something you're going to leave behind for the next lady who's going to come in and sleep in the bed you're sleeping in, be coached like I'm helping you, what would you say to that person? Because that's paying it forward. That's saying, hey, I've been where you're at. I want you to, this is what I struggle with. This is where I struggle with. And this is what I want you to know. It's going to be okay. This is how it was okay for me. This is what I did. Having that story and paying that story forward is so, so important. I love that that's what you're doing. And we're going to make sure that we put everything in the show notes and how you can reach Cheryl as well. But tell us right now, Cheryl, like verbally, so people listening can write it down. How can people reach you? Because I have a couple more questions for you too.
Okay. So I have a website. It's CherylZiegler.com. That's for my coaching. And if you're interested in the planner, it's Cheryl Ziegler Creations.com. And Ziegler is spelled Ziegler. For those of you who may remember Zig Ziglar from many years ago, we don't spell it the same way, but those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. And yeah.
Awesome. And we're going to put everything in the show notes to reach you. But one question I haven't asked you, and I'm afraid if I don't ask you, my viewers are going to like, why didn't you ask me that question? Okay. Why go from Oregon to Arkansas?
So, when this was one of the things I had mentioned earlier, it was just too cold for me. After living in California for so long, and the winters were just too long, I like to be outdoors, and it was absolutely beautiful. If I could transpose or move the beauty of Oregon to Northwest Arkansas, it would be like heaven on earth for me. But it was just too cold for too long, and it is a much warmer climate here. And we had some friends that had moved from Southern California right about the same time we were moving to Oregon. So we went opposite directions, and we came to visit them, and we're like, okay, this is a much more viable option for us. But we love it here.
That's awesome. And I know our friend who connected us, Lisa, she's got family there. And I'm like, I want to go visit there because there's a couple of TV shows that I watch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I love them. So I just think it's a beautiful, beautiful area where you're at. So let me ask you this, Cheryl. If you had the opportunity to stand on a stage and you had 500 women in that room and you had 3 minutes to impact them with something that could change their lives, what would you speak about and why?
So one of the things I would really like to leave everyone with is we all have one life. When you come to the end of your life, what do you want it to count for? And it doesn't, I want us to get out of the mentality as we have to do something so big and so grand. It doesn't have to be that. You can have an impact even in your family. I mean, think of generationally how you could love love children. I know of people who are coming out of foster care. I support a nonprofit in our area that they had moved around from foster care and they didn't know what a stable home even looked like. So there are so many ways that you could have like you said, pay it forward for everywhere that we have been blessed with. We could pay it forward to someone else. And don't live a life of regret no matter where you are, and don't shame yourself, don't beat yourself up. We all have made mistakes, we've all done things that we wish we didn't, or yeah, we didn't. But we can't change the past, but we can change our future. That's what we have power over. We have the power and ability to change our future, and you could impact one person, you could impact 100 people, but start somewhere. And all I know is, because I feel like my life changed so dramatically when I chose to start my own business, the people that I was able to become in relationship with, the things that I was able to do, it just opened up a whole nother world for me. And I feel like my life is so much richer because of it.
I love that. And that's so true. Like, we've talked about that a lot tonight and today about, we're not promised tomorrow. How are you going to leave a legacy? And that's one of the things like we talked about earlier about if I was going to go stand and talk about you, what would I say? And it's the same thing applies to self-care. Like if your family could all only say and friends at your eulogy what they saw you do for yourself, what are they going to say? Are they going to say, well, she went and volunteered all the time? That's not something for yourself. They're going to say, we saw her sit in the front porch swing. We saw her go to the beach. We saw her spend time with her kids. That's self-care, because self-care doesn't have to feel like it's selfish. You can do things with your friends, your family, and it still be self-care. I remember going oftentimes with my older son when he was in high school, we would go get mani and pedis together. He'd get the pedi while I got everything else. And the nail tech would just laugh at us. We would have conversations about anything from sex to alcohol. And they would be like, wow, you guys just talk openly. I'm like, this is the best time of conversation, right? And it's
Yeah,
just
that's
so
beautiful.
powerful. Yeah. And when you can do that and impact somebody's life, and like you said, whether it's something like changing and helping someone who's been in the system of foster care for a long time, it's so, so powerful that we do something. And like you said, it doesn't have to be grand. You don't have to be the president of the United States. You could just be the amazing Cheryl, amazing Pearl, and changing your family's lives or changing something in your local community. And because you're doing something to pay it forward, that's so, so important. I love that you shared that with us. So, okay. So I just looked down. We're almost near our end. I can't believe every time I say this, I'm like, it flies so fast. So one of the things, Cheryl, and I forgot to forewarn Cheryl, so I'm going to apologize to her up front, excuse me, is that we have these cards that we do. They're called Better Questions, Better Life. There's 70 some cards in here that my friend Carol Gill and Diane Allen put together, and they're meant for you to think about, things, and you can answer them on via meditation in a journal or just keep it around for you for the day. So I'm going to shuffle them, Cheryl. You're going to tell me when to stop, and I'm going to read the question to you, and we're going to answer it together. Okay. So here
Okay,
we go.
sounds great.
All right. Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right. So the question we have, oh my gosh, what do I love? So what do you love?
I have to say, after going through divorce and getting remarried, God has blessed me with such a wonderful spouse. So I love my husband. We are like best friends, and it's like I think of that movie, Forrest Gump. My husband and I are like peas and carrots. Yeah, I am so blessed by him.
I love that. That's one of my favorite movies. I just love, love, love that movie. It's such a great movie. I love that. And I think it's amazing. And her face lights up for those not watching when she talks about her husband. And I will have to second that. For me, if I was to answer that question, it truly is my husband. I met him when I was 19 years old. His parents were the epitome of what parents should be to their children. I learned how to be a good parent because of my in-laws, but Chuck just loves me to death. And no matter what challenges I present to him, he helps me get through it. So I love that you reminded us that too. So I just want to thank you today, Cheryl, for being on with us. I want to thank our listeners for listening and those that are watching. We're on YouTube, so you can go and subscribe to our channel, Conversations with Pearl. We are on all the podcast platforms. But if you're ready to glow up in your life and be part of something fun, come join us again on Conversations with Pearl. And we love to have you be part of our listing team. So have a great day. And I'm going to remind you that we all come into this world We are a little rough oyster on the outside, but as you work on your self-care, work on your self-development, you will find this beautiful pearl inside. Go find your inner pearl of greatness and be the Shiro you are today. Hey, everybody, welcome. I just wanted to come on and check in with you, see how you're doing, and just make sure that you truly are looking and finding your inner pearl of greatness. And so today's just going to be about some lessons for you around how you become your Shiro self. Like, really, how do you find that time for you that you can put yourself first without any guilt? And so I want to talk to you about that because, oftentimes we as women, we take care of everything else before we put something for ourselves on the time, on our planner. And so I want to talk to you about that. Why? Like, when was the last time you really challenged yourself to step away? Because you are a Shiro, you are powerful, and you are amazing. And sometimes we feel so overwhelmed that we don't feel that way, right? That we feel like, we're not working in our purpose of our power and our passion. And, we're not getting ourselves that time to pause and reflect and really create and develop our roadmap for our expectations, for our journey that we want for ourselves. So I want to ask you this. I want you to consider this. I want you to think about, is there been a time where you wanted to take time for yourself and you just said, I'll put it on my calendar. And then when it came time for your calendar, you said, oh, I can't do it. I got to get the kids to practice. I've got to go to this event. My husband needs help with this thing at work, or I'm tied to my job and we've got this deadline to meet. I want you to really think that, there is a woman who is a hero for everybody else freely. Like, we pour into others so much, so freely, that truly our identity and our focus becomes that for the other person. And we're putting our focus and our identity on a shelf, right? We freely accept it, that despite how we might feel in the moment, that it's okay to put ourselves on the shelf. So I want to give you some thoughts and some steps about really, showing up for yourself and saying yes to yourself and not trying to please others, right? Because so often we are that person. We become that people pleaser. We say yes to everybody else so excitedly now, but you don't say yes to yourself as excitedly. Like, you feel guilty, right? Do you ever feel guilty when you say no to somebody because you're like, oh, they're not going to like me. They're going to think that I don't care for them. They're going to think that I'm selfish, all those things, right? And, because we show up for others so much and not for ourselves often, it can feel like we're not worthy, right? And I wonder if that sounds like you. If that sounds like you, I want to give you a couple steps to just put yourself first without guilt. Okay. So the first one is, as women, we feel guilty when we do for ourselves, right? We feel guilty if we go get our nails done, or we feel guilty if we go out for a walk, or we go out for dinner with a friend, or maybe like me, you go for a staycation where you grab a hotel that's near the house. Like, for me, I live in Florida, so I'll grab a hotel at the beach and go spend the night. So maybe you feel guilty that you're doing that because you feel like, oh, I got to leave the kids behind, or the spouse, or they're going to think I'm being selfish because I'm doing for me. So I want to tell you, first of all, there's some things you can do to overcome that. So let's say you are a CEO mom. And so those that are listening to me the first time, when I say CEO mom, I don't like the word stay-at-home mom, because you are a CEO mom, because even if you are at home running the house business, which is why I call you a CEO mom, you have a job to do. And that's making sure the business of the home is running the way it needs to. So let's say you're that CEO mom and you have kids that, you want to spend time with, but you feel like there's not enough time in the day. So let's start with they're little. If they're little kids, under, say, 8 years old, right? Maybe you sit down and watch a silly TV show. When my kids were little, it was Barney, right? Sit down and watch a silly TV show with them and just be engaged with them, because you're going to laugh at the crazy show. You're going to spend time with your little one, but you're also going to be taking some time out for yourself. So that's one of the steps you can do with your children. If your kids are a little older, so when I finally realized that I mattered and I had to do something for me first, my kids were a little older. So my oldest one, he loved to go get his toenails done because he played football and he had football toes. So we would go for mani-pedi together. He'd get the pedi, I'd get the mani-pedi. And it was it was giving myself time to take care of myself and have self-care. But at the same time, my son Matthew was spending time with me, and we would chit chat and talk about what was happening. We might talk about the football game upcoming or the one that just passed. We might talk about girls, whatever that is, right? Him and I also had a code word for spending time together, and that was, let's go for sushi. So that would tell me that he wanted to have conversations with me, right? So my younger son, Nate, he's not into mani-pedis. He could not be bothered with any of that, but he loves to go to the movies. So we would go and catch a movie together. And we still do that to this day. He'll be like, what new movie's coming out? What do you want to see, Mom? And we'd go catch that movie together. So that's something you can do with your kids. Like, find something that you can enjoy doing that they maybe would like to do with you, and you're spending time with them. Okay. Now, when it comes to your spouse or significant other, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe catch a movie at home. Like my husband and I, even today, we find a lot of stuff on Netflix, and we'll sit down and we'll watch the movie on Netflix, right? Or maybe you coordinate once a month, you're going to go out on a date and take turns picking. He picks this month, you pick next month. Neither one of you can complain about what the other picked, but you've picked something to go do. Okay. So those are some things you can do with your loved ones when it comes time for self-care and not feeling guilty. Right. So then that way, when you do want to go do something for yourself, like a staycation or go to the movies by yourself, that guilt, you can release that guilt because you are finding time to spend with them as well. Okay. So those are just some simple steps you can do when it comes to your family. But let's talk about your job. Okay. Your professional career. So let's say that you're at work and you've got this big project to get done and you're in charge of a team. Okay. So one of the things I used to do is I wanted to make sure that my team all had a responsibility of the project that we were doing. So when I worked for a big corporation, each person had a piece of that pie because you can't run the whole machine together. You've got to have help. So find what works, what their talents are, and give them that piece of the pie that will outshine their talents. Okay. And then make sure that you, along with them, are taking breaks out to collaborate, whether it's, hey, let's go grab some lunch together and collaborate, or maybe you go outside the building and go for a quick walk around the building. I did this at the big corporation I worked with. I would send my team out to go for walk breaks. And my other team leads from other departments like, how can you do that? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, listen, if you look at my department's goals, we're hitting our goals, which means they're working hard. I need them to be all in, not be tired. So I would also go each day with one different group, and I'd go for a walk with them and just chat with them. How are they doing? What's going on? What's happening in their world? We wouldn't talk about what's happening in the project, just how are they doing? So that's another way that you can, at your professional level, do something for yourself while you're engaging with your team as well. Okay. And if you are an entrepreneur, let's say you own your own business and you're overwhelmed with all these things to get done, I'm going to challenge you to look and see what are some of the things you're doing in your business that you actually might be able to benefit from having a virtual assistant, right? So my business coach, Julie DeLuca Collins, helped me understand what my value is per hour. So once you take that per hour value and you say, filing paperwork is not worth $300 an hour. So maybe you have a virtual assistant that helps you electronically file your stuff. Find somebody that can do those things that takes up time for you building your business. And then also make sure you are taking time out during the day to go for a walk, do meditation, something that helps you pour into yourself while you're pouring into your business. So those are some tips I want to just teach you and share with you that I know I do for my self-care. So I don't feel overwhelmed. So I don't feel like I'm on the shelf, because when you put yourself on the shelf, you can't become that hero of your life. You can't become that self-made hero and have balance in your life with boundaries that you set and how to incorporate them without guilt. So just want to share some of that with you because, you guys are amazing, amazing individuals. You're beautifully and wonderfully made, and you deserve everything that's waiting for you. But when we don't open our eyes to what's around us, we don't allow ourselves time for ourselves, you can't pour into others. You can't pour into your career if you don't pour into yourself first. So I just want to share that with you. And I want to invite you, if any of this resonates with you, I would love to invite you to we have a Cheryl League. You can come once every Sunday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to come and just visit with us, we always have an open house opportunity. You can join us. It's at a Sunday evening, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern time. You can come in your PJs. It's a great way to end your week and start your new week. You can do that as well. So if you want that information, just go go to pearl@wsliving.com. Again, pearl@wsliving.com, and email me, and I can get you the link to join us. But if you want to look at some more of these steps that I've done, I would love for you to just go download my ultimate guide to self-care, and some additional steps are in there. And that's at pearlsebook.com. That's pearlsebook.com. And I hope you guys know that you come into this world as this beautiful, beautiful oyster. We're a little rough on the outside, but on the inside, you have this amazing pearl. And I just want you to know that you are this amazing pearl. And I hope you find your inner pearl of greatness. My name is Pearl Sharenza. Do you know what your score is for your self-care? Find out today. Go to pearlssurvey.com. That's pearlssurvey.com, and see what your score is today.